Bhajanna Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Verse. Here. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. James Bad Paramahamsa, Dravida Prabhu, Ashtotar Tadashi Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa, Dravida Prabhu, Ashtotar Tadashi Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Sorry. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah. All right, give me a second here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So on this 17th day of September 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading the Sri Upadesh Amrita by Rupa Goswami, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are studying text number 3. We already began it, so we'll start from within the purport, but we'll chant the verse first. Utsaha nishtayadharyat tat karma pavartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbir bhakti prasidhyati. Utsaha nishtayadharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. Utsaha nishchayadharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. Utsaha nishtayadharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. Utsaha nishtayadharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. Utsaha nishtayadharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. Utsaha nishtayadharyat tat karma pravartanat Sangatyagat sato vritte Shadbhir bhakti prasidyati. You can do it. Okay. One thing is to remember, I was chanting it this way forever, and you probably learned it from a child. Utsahan nishchedam. Utsahan. Utsahan. Long A, second A. Utsahan. Yeah, Utsahan nishchedam. Okay. This is text 3. Yeah, I made a mistake. The number is wrong. It's text 3. Translation. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1. Being enthusiastic. 2. Endeavoring with confidence. 3. Being patient. 4. Acting according to regulative principles, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. 5. Abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6. Following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So we are within this purport, and I'll begin reading it in a second. In all phases of life, one has to perform devotional activities under the direction of the spiritual master in order to attain perfection in bhakti yoga. It is not that one has to confine or narrow one's activities. Krishna is all-pervading. Therefore, nothing is independent of Krishna, as Krishna himself states in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadabhyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachahang teshavastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one has to make everything favorable for Krishna's service. For example, at present we are using a dictaphone. The materialist who invented this machine intended it for businessmen or writers of mundane subject matters. He certainly never thought of using the dictaphone in God's service, but we are using this dictaphone to write Krishna-conscious literature. Of course, the manufacture of the dictaphone is wholly within the energy of Krishna. All the parts of the instrument, including the electronic functions, are made from different combinations and interactions of the 5 basic types of material energy, namely Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akash. That's earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The inventor used his brain to make this complicated machine, and his brain, as well as the ingredients, were supplied by Krishna. According to the statement of Krishna, Matstani Sarvabhutani, everything is depending on my energy. Thus, the devotee can understand that since nothing is independent of Krishna's energy, everything should be dovetailed in his service. Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha, or enthusiasm. The devotees find the correct means by which everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. The execution of devotional service is not a matter of idle meditation, but practical action in the foreground of spiritual life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Rupa Goswami is giving us some very practical instructions here. This book is written, intended for practicing bhaktas, those who are interested in sadhana bhakti, advancing in devotional service. And in 11 verses, he takes us from choosing a guru, in text 1, to what to avoid, and then now we're on what to not avoid, what to do. And it's similar to what you find in the Ashtanga Yoga system. And you said you want to take Ashtanga Yoga. You want to do Ashtanga. Well, what's the first thing you got to do? You got to give up certain things. That's yama, and then niyama is the do's. So the don'ts really come first, because until you stop the complete nonsense, you can't do anything. So there has to be a certain number of don'ts first. Now, in Krishna consciousness, it's so liberal that even if you don't stop anything, if you just chant Hare Krishna, that's a good start. But before long, you learn that, well, okay, to really progress in this science, I have to give up the sinful activities, 4 regular principles. And then there's so many things that we have to do. So this is the first verse he described, well, how to choose a guru. Then the second one is Atyahara priyasascha bhajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lalyuja shadvi bhakti panashati. Here are the things that destroy your devotional service. Over-collecting and overeating. That definitely put a big anchor. And, you can't keep doing that if you want to advance. And priyasas is hard endeavor, strong endeavor for material things. And keeping your mind always disturbed about getting material things. Prajalpa is listening to or speaking mundane sound vibration. The very means of advancement is transcendental sound, and instead of taking advantage of all the shastras we've been given and the Hare Krishna mantra and association of devotees and kirtans, we're indulging in too much prajalpa. So that will definitely destroy your devotion. And then niyamagraha, which also expands in two. Niyama agraha, niyama agraha. So niyama agraha means to not engage in the prescribed duties in devotional service, to neglect them. And then the other one is to do them, but to go through the motions, kind of do it indifferently or just without really paying attention or without the motive of advancing. So, and then jana sangha. So this one is given twice. Here we have sangha tyagat, giving up bad association. This is auspicious. And the other one is association with materialists. So it's given twice, meaning emphasizing its importance, one on the positive, one on the negative. So the negative side is to associate with non-devotees, and that'll definitely put a halt to your advancement. And the good side is giving up that association, and that'll further your advancement. And finally, what is it? Janasanga laulyam. Now laulyam means greed. So even if you don't get a chance to accumulate wealth, if you're greedy for it, if your mentality is such, that will block your devotional service. There has to be this sense of living as simply as possible and not coveting more than is your allotment. As it says in the Isha Upanishad, the first mantra, Isha Vashamidam Sarvam, Yatkincha Jigatyam Jigat, Tena Chaktena Bunjita, Ma Gudha Kastisviddanam. I like that word Gudha, which it sounds like greed. Don't be greedy, Gudha, for more than is your allotment. Everything is controlled and owned by the Lord. And therefore, everything that we can should be used in the service of the Lord. One is entitled to his allotment that we need to live, but more than that is a crime. So, what we read now today was a little section on enthusiasm. No, he's introducing that. He's going to begin Utsahan. Yes, he first the introductory paragraph, and then beginning with enthusiasm. So what Prabhupada is saying here, we have to be under the direction of the spiritual master because we're ignorant. We don't know. We've spent lifetimes in this material world and in materialistic activities, and that's what our conditioning is. We're conditioned, and how we grew up, how we were trained, parents, everything. This is our conditioning gives us the mode of acting materially. That's what we're conditioned to. So how to break out of that? We need to get instruction from someone who's not conditioned, either directly or through media like the books or others. So one has to perform devotional service under the spiritual master to attain perfection in Bhakti Yoga. And then Prabhupada explains, well, it doesn't mean you have to stop doing what you're doing. I mean, unless it's grossly sinful. You have to find a way to live in this world. Most people are not going to live in the temple. And dovetail your activities in Christian service. To see what you're doing. Okay, I'm keeping body and soul together, therefore I need to do some kind of work. But as far as possible, one should have a livelihood where he can remember Krishna. And you can feel that, yes, I'm doing this work and getting some money, but I'm doing it to keep my body and soul together so that I can serve you, I can preach Krishna consciousness. And that's this principle of yukta vairagya, which Prabhupada mentions here. Prabhupada, first of all, he talks about how you can think about it. Everything that we're using in our life is Krishna's energy. Bhoomer Apo Nalovayo, he explains in the 7th chapter, whatever earth we're using, any hard things, any liquids, our intelligence itself, all of these are listed as part of Krishna's energies. So what do we have that's really ours? We're just borrowing it. You see? And since it's coming from Krishna, it should be used in Krishna's service. And if we do that, we'll feel actually peaceful. If not, we'll feel like thieves. We don't know why we're uneasy, but it's because we're living an unnatural life. We're living in such a way that is against the laws of Krishna, the laws of God, and the laws of nature, and we become unhappy. So, with this understanding, and Prabhupada gives the example of the dictaphone. Actually, dictaphone is a brand name of a dictating machine that he would use. I don't think we ever actually got him a dictaphone, but he called it a dictaphone. We know what it is. So he's using it. As he's writing, he's using it. So he's using that as an example. So it's a perfect use of the dictaphone. The dictaphone is in its constitutional position because it's Krishna's energy being used for Krishna. And that's the whole point. So that's called yukta vairagya. Vairagya means detachment. Prabhupada's not attached to the dictaphone, but he's using it for Krishna's service, so therefore he's engaging with it. So what the verse goes like this, and it's part of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Samhita Sindhu. Anasaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjita nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya muchyate. So the first was anasaktas, without attachment. We're not attached. That's why the great devotees, they can keep traveling anywhere. They don't have attachment to any place. You know how it is. You live for a place for a while and you become attached, you know. So that's therefore 3 days max go, you know. So don't put down roots. So anasaktasya vishaya. Vishayana is the object of the senses. The object of the senses we can try to enjoy, or the object of the senses we can engage in for Krishna's enjoyment. Just like this altar, that beautiful flower outfit. You know, how many flowers, it cost so much money to get those flowers, or some of them we grew, I don't know how, you know, but it took an effort, or, you know, in order to put that flower outfit together. So that, you know, you can see, so many, for some wedding, they could make a whole flower arrangement, you know, that's material, ultimately, glorifying some material attachment. There's a million different ways that flowers can be used materially. But these flowers, and the effort that went into making them and the arrangement, was for Radha and Krishna's pleasure, and therefore it's all transcendental. That's yukta vairagya. No one's attached to the flower. We're attached to the way in which it's beautifying Radha and Krishna. That's bhakti. So this is vishayan yataham apayunjita. Now this word yataham is very important. It means as appropriate. There's so many things that we can't really engage in Krishna's service, you know. So we don't engage them. But as appropriate, in the proper way, upayunjita. It's based on the word yoga, you know, upayunjita, connecting. And therefore, nirbandha. You're not bound by them. Otherwise, if you use things for your own pleasure, you get bound by the pleasure that you enjoy and the things that you use for the enjoyment. And that bondage will keep you coming back again and again in birth and death. So we're trying to loosen those bonds or cut those bonds to this world. Not by leaving the world, not by going off into the Himalayas, you know, because that's impossible. We have these senses and we have these sense objects. But by using them in Krishna's service. It's almost like a judo thing, you know? We got these bodies, and we got all these senses, and we're attracted to the sense objects. So what are you going to do? The yogis say, all right, repress, you know, go off alone somewhere, you know, or just try to void out, you know. But what will repression accomplish? Does that phrase ring a bell? Where did we read that? What will repression accomplish? Bhagavad Gita. I forget which verse, but it's like third or fourth chapter. So Krishna is saying you have to engage these things in the service. You can't repress the senses. You have to engage them. So that's what this is all about. And how to do it? With enthusiasm. Now this enthusiasm is it's easy to be enthusiastic about material things, right? That's kind of the natural flow that we've already done. But this is enthusiasm about serving Krishna. So at first, that's not so easy to come by. Because we have the mind is thinking, all right, you've done enough of this now, you know, now let's enjoy, right? We're used to enjoy. So when you first come to Krishna consciousness, it's very difficult to sit down and chant for 16 minutes. You see the people, you know, or even reading, you know, because it's basically all about transcendence, which is they're not used to doing. But that's what it takes. And so I learned this early on, you know, you go out on Harinam. right? Well, on Harinam, you can't drag around, depressed and looking at the ground. You have to, chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna. So you feel the relation. The people are out there, they're looking at you. You're obviously a spectacle. So if you're chanting with joy and dancing, that's going to be what Krishna likes, right? And that's going to make a good impression on people. Maybe they'll actually take your card or your magazine. That's what you want. So you fake it. All right, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And as soon as you fake it, Krishna gives you a little bliss because you're doing it. In other words, we're forcing ourselves to act in such a way, which, as we know we should, and very quickly, especially in Harinam, chanting the holy name, you find that there's some real pleasure there. And you're detached from the material world. You're dancing through, the downtowns, so many things that are designed to get your senses and steal your money. And you couldn't care less. All the restaurants and the clubs and the scantily clad this and that. No attraction. Whereas if you go down there alone, dressed as a materialist, and you're not chanting, you're not going to be able to be detached. So utsaha is very important. And Prabhupada mentions this verse, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, in that verse. The action is not a matter of idle meditation, but practical action in the foreground of spiritual life. So that practical action with our senses, with our mind, purifies our senses and mind. And at a certain point, you become spontaneously attracted to do it. You want to come and see the deities. You want to come and chant. You want to sit down. Oh, great, Java. All right, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And that's why it helps. It helps a lot to read the lives of the great devotees and read the verses that they wrote, revealing their experience. How many verses about the holy name? Maroda Maroda Meda Mangalam Mangalam. This holy name is the sweetest of the sweet. Well, okay, I'm chanting it. I don't taste it. I mean, it's not a horrible experience. But I'm not chasing it as the most sweetest of the sweet thing. It's an austerity to chant. So what's wrong with me? Well, our mind, our tongue is still covered by the bile of ignorance. We'll read that verse in a couple of times. In other words, we have to learn how to relish the most refined spiritual happiness, which is available to us. So that takes enthusiasm, and as Prabhupada will explain next, or as Rupa Goswami says, and Prabhupada will explain, patience. You have to be enthusiastic, but you can't flame out after a day or two. So I tried it. Like I had my brother once chant, but he wasn't really getting into it. He just did it as kind of an experiment to show how it didn't work. And sure enough, it didn't work. Well, I didn't feel anything. Probably wasn't. And that's the last time he chanted. It was like 20, 30 years ago. So, but if you're really serious and you have faith. This is why the association of the pure devotees is so important. You have faith, then you'll have patience. Okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to pray to do it better. And at a certain point, I have faith that I'll experience more of what's being described in the books. Therefore, any comments or questions? If there are, we have the mic. I left it on there, but he put it away. Okay. It's there. Okay. These activities must be executed with patience. One should not be impatient in Krishna consciousness. Indeed, this Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly, and in the beginning there was no response. But because we continued to execute our devotional activities with patience, people gradually began to understand the importance of this movement, and now they are eagerly participating. One should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The successful execution of Krishna conscious activities requires both patience and confidence. That's the third thing. That's the dharyat. Yeah, confidence. A newly married girl naturally expects offspring from her husband, but she cannot expect to have them immediately after marriage. Of course, as soon as she is married, she can attempt to get a child, but she must surrender to her husband, confident that her child will develop and be born in due time. Similarly, in devotional service, surrender means that one has to become confident. The devotee thinks, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. This is called confidence. So they all go together. In other words, enthusiasm has to be accompanied by patience and confidence. Otherwise, it's just a flash in the pan. It's not. It's fake. And to have patience, you have to have confidence. Now the underlying foundation of all this is faith. You see that faith means it's very close to confidence. Yes, I'm not experiencing it right now, but I have faith and confidence that if I continue on the path, I will experience this and become advanced. So that's they all go together, and the underlying what do you say? The context of all this is the tat karma pravartanat. Enthusiasm for what? Tat karma pravartanat means all the activities that we're enjoined to perform in devotional service. Getting up early, bathing, chanting the holy name, of course, and also the don'ts, not doing this, not doing it, doing this. This is tat karma pravartanat. So enthusiasm in the matter of doing those, patience that I will achieve the result of these, and confidence that it will come because I have faith in the process and in those who have gone before. And that's why he says sato vritte, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, the previous devotees. Now, that doesn't just necessarily mean all of our great acharyas that we revere on the altar, but also other devotees who've been around longer and who can see, they're experiencing something, they're enthusiastic. I can be like that because they're just like me. I was doing pretty much what they were doing 10 years ago, but now they've gone so forth. So that's another very important part of the Acharya principle, to take encouragement from association with devotees. Otherwise, if it's just you in the book, in the middle of nowhere, it's very hard to practice. Although there've been some instances like that. I remember in Russia, they came upon some city and there were devotees there. Well, no one came there. Well, the books went there, and somehow someone got really fired up, started practicing, and became a devotee. And nobody was initiated, but they were out there chanting Hare Krishna and distributing books. The potency of Prabhupada's books. Very rare, though. Okay. So, are there any comments or questions? Raise your hand. Go ahead. He's got it right here.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, earlier, in relation to enthusiasm, it said that it should be engaged in with intelligence, activity engaged in with intelligence.
Yeah.
Something like that. So how do we know that we are engaging in activity using our intelligence, or not?
Well, what I get from that is that the intelligence means that the background of the activity. In other words, just imitation. Someone walks in the temple and they see the devotees dancing in the dance, but they have no understanding of the deep meaning of Sankirtan. They don't know about Lord Chaitanya. They don't know anything like that. So without understanding the background of the activity, the goal of the activity, and how it's purifying you, if you actually understand that, then you'll be more likely to be enthusiastic about it, even if you're not, feeling bliss at the time. So, well, okay, I know that this works because I've read about it and I understand it. So that's what I understand is that where the enthusiasm. It's not the complete determining factor for enthusiasm, but it is necessary. Necessary but not sufficient. That whole idea. It's necessary but not sufficient. So understanding, I remember, I knew about the devotees. I was visiting the temple back in late 72, early 73, and I had the Krishna book. But to be honest with you, the Krishna book was opaque to me because I was totally into I started coming from a kind of impersonal background, and quiet meditation and off in the country and all this stuff, and all of these lila were just too much, So I visited the temple and everything, but I really wasn't chanting seriously. But then when I got the TLC, Teaching of Lord Chaitanya, the philosophy, because I was philosophically inclined, and the whole background of it and the science of it and Lord Chaitanya's life, that really gave me enthusiasm for practicing. So there was, intelligence means you're applying and you're learning and you're remembering, and then when you act on that basis, you can have more intelligence. So that's why it's so important to read. Read the books, and it automatically, enlivens you. And then when you're practicing, you say, "Oh, I'm doing what it says in the book." So you're more likely to be enthusiastic. That's how I understand it. Yeah. Hold on a second. But you may not need it, Mike. No. No, the thing is, it's for the audience. But it's good for the audience in the internet world. It's for the internet. And keep it close. It's designed to be real close. And pointing.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, that's
Oh, I just wanted to mention that I think Balaram made a good point to me the other day personally, saying that using your intelligence, that if you really want to get also to the root of what we're supposed to be doing, or is to observe Srila Prabhupada in his videos, in his movies, to observe and to see what he was doing and talking about, because that's who brought it over, Srila Prabhupada. So to get to the root of it, to follow him and to see what he's doing. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that he's very important in this whole matter.
That's the Acharya principle of being an exemplar and inspiring. There's no doubt about it. Go ahead. One more. We have a nice discussion.
Actually, hold the mic about 8 inches from your mouth.
Like this? That's about 8 inches.
All right, try it.
Closer.
We don't have to hear it.
I should probably come close. Okay.
You're the boss.
Is that good?
Mike Acharya over there.
I just really like the point of how you mentioned how it's almost necessary to have some sort of example. So they're demonstrating the living example of the teachings, and just I can see how that's really relevant in my.
That's how the movement grew. Prabhupada made a few devotees in New York, and then a couple of them went to the West Coast, and they were examples, blissful devotees chanting and attract people. It works like that.
There's one funny story that Radhanath Swami tells, how he was this was when he was a young devotee in New Vrindavan, and how there was one person, and he never met devotees, but he got a book. And it's funny because Maharaj, when he's telling the story, imitates him. He's from the country, he has a strong, heavy accent, and he's saying, "Oh, I got your Bhagavad Gita." He couldn't even say it right, and then from just having a book, he learned to chant 16 rounds. He was following 4 principles, regulative principles, and he was reading every day.
Wow.
And so when he came to the temple, he was already nicely prepared.
That's rare, but very wonderful when that happens. It shows that there's something from previous lives, it gets uncovered, and immediately you're attracted. Like Keshava Bharati Maharaj, when he was coming to he was searching, he was looking here and there. When he came across Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, couldn't stop reading it. He read the whole thing in one, like all night, that type of thing. And when he was finished, he just joined the temple. Said, this is exactly what I'm looking for. With other people, you give them the Bhagavad Gita. What is this? I can't. So it's there's a lot to do with like previous life, kind of thing. All right, let's see. We have a little time. Let's read one more paragraph. Forget whatever. Oh, Raksha. Okay. As already explained, now this is Tat Karma Bhavartana. As already explained, one should not be idle, but should be very enthusiastic about executing the regulative principles. This is a little broader use of that word. Tat Karma Bhavartana. Neglect of the regulative principles, all the things we do, will destroy devotional service. In this Krishna conscious movement, now, he segues into the actual regulative principles. In this Krishna conscious movement, there are 4 basic regulative principles: forbidding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. A devotee must be very enthusiastic about following these principles. If he becomes slack in following any of them, his progress will certainly be checked. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore recommends Tat Karma Bhavartanat. One must strictly follow the regulative principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. Now everyone knows Vaidhi Bhakti is more than just those 4 regulative principles. In addition to these 4 prohibitions, yama, there are positive regular principles, niyama, and this is exactly what I mentioned about that, because those are the first 2 in Ashtanga Yoga, such as daily chanting of 16 rounds on japamala beads. These regulative activities must be faithfully performed with enthusiasm. This is called tat karma pravartana, or varied engagement in devotional service. Furthermore, in order to be successful in devotional service, one must give up the association of undesirable people, sangha tyagat. This includes karmis, gyanis, yogis, and other non-devotees. Once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by one of his householder devotees about the general principles of Vaishnavism, as well as the general routine activities of a Vaishnava. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately replied, Ramapati, you know this, Asat Sangha? Asat Sangha Tyaga e Vaishnava Achar. Characteristically, a Vaishnava is one who gives up the association of worldly people or non-devotees. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore recommended Tandara Chadana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. One has to live in the company of pure devotees and execute the regulative principles laid down by the previous acharyas. The six Goswamis, namely Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. If one lives in the association of devotees, there is little chance of associating with non-devotees. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is opening many centers just to invite people to live in the company of devotees and practice the regulative principles of spiritual life. So, Prabhupada wrote this when the movement basically consisted of a bunch of centers which devotees lived in, were very near, and they were all full-time devotees. There was very little congregation. In India, it was beginning, among the Indians, but in the West, it was basically people would visit, and after a while, you'd ask them to join up, and if they wanted to join, they'd move in, Nowadays, the vast majority of devotees live outside the temple. But still, the principle is there. It's much more difficult, obviously, to completely avoid association with non-devotees if you're living outside the temple and working. But as far as possible, one needs to do that, and if possible, to transcendentalize one's interactions by, chanting Hare Krishna, giving the prasadam, somehow or other to add Krishna into the mix. Because the weight of non-devotee association will definitely be like an anchor. Like a ball and chain that makes it very hard to move forward in devotional service. It's just a principle. Because we can appreciate how important it is to associate with devotees, especially advanced devotees. It's like a treasure. Why do we go on pilgrimage? Not just to visit the Dham, but to associate with the devotees there. That's right in the Shastra. That's what we're doing. So this that's the last 2 that we're reading. Tatta karma and sangha tyagat and sato vritte. That's the positive side. To follow in the footsteps of the acharyas. All right, let me just read that, and then we can finish up this section next time. Devotional service means transcendental activities. On the transcendental platform, there is no contamination of the 3 modes of material nature. This is called Vishuddha Sattva, the platform of pure goodness, or goodness free from contamination by the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this Krishna consciousness movement, we require everyone to rise early in the morning by 4 o'clock and attend Mangal Arati, or morning worship, then read Srimad Bhagavatam, perform kirtan, so forth. Thus, we hold continuous activities in devotional service 24 hours daily. This is called Sato Vritti, or following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, who expertly filled every moment of time with Krishna conscious activities. So we'll end there, and we'll pick that up next Monday. If you're here, you're invited to come. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.